In the year of our Lord 1545, a tragedy occurred unlike any the world had ever faced before. The final bastion of the holy city of Antioch was destroyed by an infernal device. The last hope for faithful power in the Levant had fallen. It seemed the hellish armies had struck a killing blow. But this would not be the end for the faithful. No, this was only the beginning. Welcome back to the world of Trench Crusade, and welcome to the faction of New Antioch. If you have watched my video on the overall world and history of Trench Crusade, you know a bit about the factions already. As I said in that video, that was only a taster. In this one, we will be taking a greater look at the strongest faction of the faithful forces, the bastions against the heretics and the hellish, the Principality of New Antioch. After the devastation of the original city of Antioch, it seemed all hope for resistance in the Middle East was lost to the faithful forces. But the faithful saw the importance of the home of hopes. The faithful never gave up their positions in the ruins. Despite the fact the city had been all but annihilated, the warriors of Antioch fought on in the rubble, pushing heretics back time and time again. Despite the overwhelming forces facing them, and the demonic essence emanating from the pit the demonic device had left, the warriors held their ground. Even as mighty Constantinople was overrun by the damned legion of Chimerus, Marquis of Hell, the garrison of Antioch remained resolute in their defence. The city of Antioch was always the first line of defence and the last bastion of the faithful strength in the Levant. Since the year of 3 battles 4 centuries before, it had withstood the wrath of the devil's servants. It was the symbol of divine strength against those who wished to throw the world into darkness. This symbol could not fall. And with the heretics' advancement into the Balkans after the fall of Byzantium, a decision had to be made by the faithful forces. This led to a decision that would change the world and set in motion the events that would affect the very foundations of history, the Sword Congress of Vienna. In the year of 1559, the Sword Congress of Vienna took place. This was the meeting that decided the fate of Antioch. Since the heretics were pushing into the Balkans further and further, they had to make a decision to send reinforcements to the front there, or whether resources would be better used to help the fighters that still held out in the ruins of Antioch. Not only were they impressed by the resilience and fortitude shown of the Antioch garrison, but it was also a key stronghold, the last inside the Levant. However, the real reason they decided to put their faith in Antioch was its symbolic meaning. A city that even when pushed to the brink, even after annihilation, never bent its knee to the forces of hell. Thus, it is no wonder that in the year 1559, the Sword Congress of Vienna agreed to rebuild and fortify the city. This was a colossal effort and involved countless workers, engineers, and supplies from Europa, the Mediterranean, and African dominions, as well as endless reinforcements to hold the line as Antioch was rebuilt. For decades, thousands fought and died to hold back the tides of demons and heretics for the hope of saving Antioch and establishing a new stronghold for the faithful. And 5 decades after the destruction of Antioch, in the year 1595, construction of the walls was finished and the fortress city of New Antioch was completed. This was the strongest fortress city ever built, and to this day it remains the key front and most important faction for the faithful forces. As was decreed in the Sword Congress of Vienna, a yearly tithe is sent to the Principality of New Antioch from every faithful nation to assist the stronghold in its mission to drive off the heretic forces. This tithe, however, does not come in the form of coin. No, the tithe to New Antioch is paid in a near endless stream of food supplies, ammunition, tools, weaponry, machinery, skilled workforce, labour, and engineers to maintain the city's defence. For centuries, the city has maintained its power despite the best efforts of the hellish armies. Even when the great heretic fleet was unleashed in the year 1666, beggaring their port and capturing Gibraltar and cutting off supplies to the city, they held strong. As they perished from the plagues of the Black Grail, they held strong. As the secret weapons of heretic submarines destroyed their supplies and thousands starved, New Antioch held strong. Since those dark days, New Antioch has grown and has become undoubtedly the most important and most critical fortress city of the faithful forces, the sword and shield of Europa and Africa, the defender of the faithful and the weapon of the divine. They hold, fight and die for their God and to push back the darkness of hell. This is with the unanimous agreement of the faithful nations, as they see it, the princes of the church and leaders of various dominions who oppose hell, it is better to fight the heretics away from their heartlands. This way, they don't suffer the brunt of the hellish army's focus, allowing them to maintain the front lines as the armies of New Antioch take on the brunt of the heretics' offensives. To this day, the walls of New Antioch have cast off the attacks of 8 great sieges. This was due to the might of their walls. The walls of New Antioch are impervious to most damage the demonic forces can throw at it. Marking these walls are 77 great towers. The great towers of New Antioch have never been breached, due to the hundreds of anchorites, giant metal battle shrines with devoted worshippers entombed inside. These shrine anchorites keep watch over the walls of Antioch, and staying vigilant day and night to guard the city from any who intend to harm it. Despite these formidable anchorites and impenetrable walls, it would not be able to withstand the forces of Gehenna if it were not for the volunteers who come to fight under the banner of Christ. These soldiers from across the world arm themselves and come to lay down their lives in the fight against the unholy. Thousands march into the endless war of no man's land to become the next martyr or hero in the fight to keep the Principality alive. Thus, in the streets, hundreds of languages are spoken, and cultures mix and meet in the markets and squares. One might observe hussars from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth brushing shoulders with the last remnants of the Varangian Guard, or hear the sermons of a street preacher from Era extolling soldiery of Ethiopia to lay down their lives for the cause. The city is a melting pot of cultural ideas and inventions. This has led to new centers of innovation and technologies to fight the forces of hell. You may see church engineers taking their latest invention to be tested on the front lines. This all happens under the watchful eyes of the Office of Propagation of Virtue that tirelessly patrol the streets. These are the secret police of the city, rooting out heretics and making sure that the rules of the city were kept, even in its darkest corners. While they are quite happy to turn a blind eye to the revelries of soldiers, they ferociously prosecute even the slightest deviation from church doctrine. The execution of heretics is a weekly spectacle that draws immense crowds. The war effort of New Antioch does not rely on the tithe given by the faithful forces alone. The Principality is home to an immense industry. It has become a major industrial force, with factories spewing smoke as they produce immense numbers of tanks and trucks for the war effort to hold the heretics at bay. While the great foundries of New Antioch burn white hot for days on end as they produce weaponry and equipment essential to maintaining of the walls and the artillery battalions, the pride of New Antioch. The industrial power allows for New Antioch to suffer the necessary losses the Great War demands and still push on to combat the hellish powers. There are many secrets held within the depths of the great city, some more dark than they appear. The techno laboratories of New Antioch hold countless experiments with twisted results and gruesome tests. They push the boundaries of what a human can be in attempts to produce communicants. Communicants are the living embodiment of the war of creation. These are amplified humans, more than just the common man. They are meta-humans who have gained special supernatural and spiritual powers from the flesh and blood of the Redeemer himself. These superhuman communicants allow the forces of the faithful to match the twisted abominations that arise from Gehenna. Thousands of workers give their lives in horrific accidents and overwork each year, and great statues celebrating their sacrifice stand around the city to remind the faithful of the cost of the war against hell. Despite all these preparations, it is a grim reality that New Antioch could never withstand the full onslaught of the combined heretic forces. Despite its help from each faithful nation, and no matter how many volunteers answer the call, the forces of hell will always outnumber the faithful. As unlike them, when a heretic dies, another will take his place. And unlike the faithful, the demons from hell have the infernal devices and darkest of magic to push the faithful back. With the countless demonic reinforcements that spew from the Hellgate, it would not be long before the Principality fell. However, the Bastion maintains its position in major part thanks to the constant infighting within the forces of hell. The ferocious and bloody internal conflict amongst the devils allows the Principality to stand to this day. The archdevils of the court of hell are always playing in bids to increase their demonic powers, rising and falling in a constant battle for dominance. The demons leading the heretic forces can never dedicate their full power to eliminate the Principality, and only rarely does one of them gain supremacy for long enough to mount a full-scale invasion, as this has only ever happened 8 times in the centuries the Principality has stayed strong. Even though the war has stretched for centuries, with decades of nervous lull between great battles, the rulers of hell are immortal, and to them the war has barely even started. They are beings that have existed before there was time, and wish to savour the agony of the mortals who die in their millions, and thus the great war rages on, sometimes with long years of silence followed by sudden, ferocious assaults. At any moment, the forces of hell could shift, with a new archdemon gaining power. This means New Antioch must always be on the defensive against the heretic forces, always on guard against the attacks that could be launched at any moment. For this reason, the control of the faithful military lies at the highest rank to the Duke of Antioch. As the nominal leader of all faithful forces, the Duke of New Antioch has the power to command all the troops that fight in this front. The Duke must remain vigilant at all times, organising the supplies and strategies of the front to portray a sense of unity and strength between the faithful forces. But, despite swearing fealty to the Duke, in reality, troops who come to the battle against hell from across all of Christendom operate in units of their own, taking commands from their own leaders. The majority always keep their loyalty to their original countries and cultures and simply use the front of Principality to strike back against the heretics. Though there is no small number of faithful who renounce their original citizenship to take up the cross and walk in the path of faith, to fight loyally for Christendom and to fight under Duke Constantine directly. These have become the backbone of New Antioch's forces, and some of the most elite fighters in all the faithful. Thus, the standing army of the Principality is the greatest single fighting force the faithful can muster, and those who serve on the walls of the Home of Hopes are rightfully proud of their livery. There are many units and key fighters in the armies of New Antioch, but the ground forces, the yeomen, keep the front lines. These are the average foot soldiers in New Antioch. They are the core of the faithful forces. Trained and well equipped, they represent the strength and the Principality, and each swear a personal oath to the Duke and are devoted to the defence and mission of New Antioch. What they lack in combat skills, they are more than make up for with their numbers and wide selections of weapons. Shock troopers are assault troops that specialise in attacking enemy defensive positions. They are masters of rapid assaults and melee combat, and are experts at combined arms and fireteam tactics. They are the second most common troops in the armies of the Principality, and reinforce the yeomen on assault missions. They are used to conduct precision strikes, eliminating targets and capturing key locations. They are the blades of the Home of Hopes. Combat engineers specialise in destroying bunkers, discovering minefields, and building battlefield emplacements. They are well trained and are used to great effect in mixed warbands. They are strong fighters and are equipped with thick steel armour that can stop pistol and even rifle rounds. Despite the high number of casualties in such units, these soldiers consider it an honour to fight and die for New Antioch and the Church. They are heavily specialised and take years to train. They are not a resource used lightly, and are deployed in warbands to assist in assaults or defences to secure objectives at any cost. The heavy mechanized infantry are a cornerstone of the New Antioch forces. They are elite warriors chosen from the orphanages to be blessed with the metal armor of the mechanized infantry. This comes at a cost, however. Once chosen, they are brought through a special process where they are heavily augmented by chemicals and secretive techniques to improve their size, strength, and mental fortitude. Each set of armor is handcrafted and in the eyes of New Antioch more valuable than the soldiers inside. Mechanized heavy infantry are charged with wielding the heavy weaponry of the company. They are the armored elite able to press the attack under heavy fire. They are the bulwark of the Principality. The Sisters of St. Cosmas, also known as combat medics, are a highly trained elite medical corps who specialize in battlefield first aid and surgeries on the front lines. The Sisters take a modified Hippocratic oath that compels them to help any wounded soldiers of the faith, no matter how dire the circumstances are, as well as dispatching heretics and other enemies they find on the battlefield without pity or mercy. Armed with a combat surgical knife that doubles as a misericordia, they are so equally adept at saving lives as taking them from those they find lying wounded in no man's land. They carry medical kits with a plethora of battlefield drugs that are especially useful for nullifying the pain of even the ghastliest wounds and getting soldiers back on their feet and back into the fray, even if just for a few moments, so they can accomplish their mission or die trying. Lieutenants are the leaders of the war bands. They are tasked with upholding the unity and perseverance of the front lines. They display unwavering loyalty to the Duke and the Principality. There are several ways to become a lieutenant, but the most common is that of a favoured noble's son or daughter, or a particularly impressive soldier who gained their rank by impressing their superiors with their exceptional strategic acumen and audacious bravery. They are in charge of keeping supplies for their troops, which often means scavenging the battlefield for fresh ammunition and rations. They are the first level of leadership and logistics of the Principality. Trench clerics are holy warriors who look after the souls of the soldiers in their company. Trench clerics chant inspiring battle prayers and can perform various miracles, such as healing or even smiting the enemy. A cleric often carries a portable shrine on his back to denote his faith in the company's patron, be that one of the saints of their homeland, a mighty archangel, or the Lord himself. Sniper priests, being devotees of the church, blind themselves ritually as devotion to God and use only their faith to strike the enemies of the church. They are a living sign of God's divine will on the battlefield, as they are guided by His will. They are a source of morale and unparalleled skill when in the fight. They see with the eyes of God. Their aim will always strike true. God wills it. The majority of New Antioch's armies and warbands consist of these troops. However, they are not all the Principality has to offer to the faithful war effort. Despite the effectiveness and elite manner of troops they have to rely on, there are some situations these troops simply cannot overcome. In times of great threat, such as the great sieges or an immense attack from the heretical forces, there are other weapons the Principality can call on. Elite troops that fight with the word of God in their very head and seeing through His divine eyes. These are the observers. Among the faithful's elite forces in the Trench Crusade are the observers of the Synod of Strategic Prophecy. These warrior monks live lives of absolute solitude and discipline, dedicating themselves to sharpening their minds and bodies into unparalleled instruments of divine will. Their role in the battlefield is crucial and highly specialized, with their unique abilities enabling them to shift the tide of battles in the favor of the faithful. Observers live their lives within the Temple of the Word, a secluded monastery where even the slightest disturbance could compromise their training. Their days are divided between intense physical regiments, mental exercises, and spiritual communions with the divine. This rigorous lifestyle ensures that they remain entirely focused on their sacred mission, to serve as living weapons in the hand of God. Only when the need is dire does the Synod of Strategic Prophecy summon an observer to the battlefield. Their arrival is a harbinger of decisive action, as their abilities make them invaluable in critical moments of the Great War. Central to the observer's power is their specially crafted Oculus helmet. This artifact allows them to attune the voice of God, granting them the ability to perceive the immediate past, present, and future simultaneously to a degree. This divine insight enables them to execute extraordinary martial feats, from evading enemy strikes with perfect timing to anticipating their enemies' moves. However, this gift comes at a steep cost. The voice of God resonates endlessly within their minds, filling them with an overwhelming narrative spanning from creation to the present. Concentrating on the specific guidance they need requires superhuman focus, and the constant presence of the voice renders sleep impossible. Observers must rely on potent sedatives and mind-altering drugs to endure the relentless mental strain. On the battlefield, observers are peerless combatants. Guided by divine foresight, they can avoid nearly any attack with minimal movement, appearing untouchable to their enemies. Their weapon of choice, the trenched polearm, is as versatile as it is deadly. It allows them to vault over obstacles, penetrate enemy lines, and deliver devastating strikes. The Eye of God, a crystal embedded in their helmet, further enhances their ability to anticipate and counter enemy actions. Observers also wield the words of God as a weapon. Their helmets amplify their voices, enabling them to issue commands imbued with divine authority. These commands compel friends and foes to obey, albeit briefly, allowing observers to manipulate the battlefield with precision. This ability, however, requires intense focus and can fail if their concentration is disrupted. Despite their exceptional abilities, observers are not invincible. A momentary lapse in judgment or concentration can sever their connection to the voice of God, leaving them as vulnerable as any other soldier. Additionally, the mental toll of their role is immense. The constant echo of divine words often drives them to the brink of madness, and many observers endure heavy sedation to maintain their composure. Observers are also profoundly isolated. Their unique connection to the divine makes ordinary human interactions nearly impossible. Most will never leave the Temple of the Word, except for battle, and they often return deeply scarred by their experiences. The price they pay for their service is steep, but their faith and discipline sustain them in their role. The observers embody the faithful's belief in divine intervention and the power of unwavering devotion. Their ability to commune with the voice of God and turn it into a weapon of war represents humanity's enduring connection to the divine, even in the face of hell's horrors. Though their path is one of solitude and sacrifice, observers stand as living testaments to the faithful's resolve, ensuring that the will of God continues to shape the course of the Great War. These faithful forces are what keeps the tides of evil at bay and expands the lands of the Principality, defending its borders. However, the Hell Gate never rests. Demons emerge in their countless hordes, arriving to overwhelm the last bastion. The faithful of New Antioch needed a way to fight back. No one could enter the domains of hell without falling to corruption. To strike back at the demons in their own lands, the faithful and the techno laboratories set to work to create something new, something that would change the course of the war: the Paladins. Divine warriors forged through centuries of experimentation and unparalleled devotion. These elite crusaders are the pinnacle of the Church's efforts to combat the infernal forces of hell. Imbued with near-divine strength and unmatched holiness, the Paladins stand as living embodiments of the faithful's resilience in the Great War. The Paladin program was conceived as the ultimate answer to the faithful's inability to directly confront the Gate of Hell and its surrounding domains. Even the most pious soldiers found it impossible to endure the supernatural corruption emanating from the Vale of Tears, the gateway to Inferno. Paladins were created to overcome this limitation, granting the faithful a weapon capable of penetrating hell itself and returning victorious. Originally, 12 paladins were created, but over centuries of relentless warfare, only 9 remain. Each is a near-perfect communicant, a blend of human and divine. Their physical forms are strengthened by the purest blood produced through the Church's Meta-Christ program, enabling them to withstand the harrowing environments of hell and engage in missions within its infernal realms. Paladins lead secluded lives, housed within the secret wing of Castel Sant'Angelo. They spend their days in contemplation, training, and spiritual preparation for their next mission. Each paladin is armed and armoured through a sacred process. Blinded and gelded serfs, untouched by impure intentions, assist in preparing their equipment, ensuring that no worldly corruption taints their mission. Before deployment, paladins receive the last rites prehumously, underscoring the grave dangers they face. The paladin's equipment is a marvel of divine craftsmanship. Forged from Gothic tektites, a rare and irreplaceable material harvested from the ruins of Jerusalem, their armour and weapons are highly resistant to Hell's forces, but maintaining and repairing these relics becomes increasingly difficult. The Church's inability to produce new tektites since the destruction of Jerusalem has left the paladin's gear scarred and deteriorated. This results in unbearable physical pain for the warriors, whose faith and resolve are their only shields against suffering. Each paladin's armour is customized to withstand the unique environments of Hell's 9 circles, whether enduring noxious fumes, searing heat, or sub-zero cold. These suits can defend against any of Hell's environments. However, these suits come at a cost. They are burdensome, causing immense physical and spiritual strain. The paladins endure this willingly, motivated by their unwavering devotion to the faithful's cause. Paladins are deployed sparingly, only for missions of utmost importance. These include assassinating archdevils, destroying infernal laboratories, or retrieving critical relics. Their actions must provide significant and tangible benefits to the Church's war effort, as determined by the Synod of Strategic Prophecy. Each mission is also a solo endeavour. Paladins operate alone, with no hope of reinforcements or support. Success or martyrdom are the only outcomes. Despite their legendary status, paladins face limitations. The Church has been unable to create a new paladin for over 3 centuries, and their dwindling numbers place immense pressure on those who remain. Moreover, rumours of treachery among their ranks cast a shadow over their divine image, though such claims are vehemently denied by the Church. Paladins represent the faithful's unyielding determination to confront Hell's horror. Standing at 17 feet tall when fully armoured, these towering figures inspire awe and hope among the faithful. Yet, their existence is a testament to the sacrifice demanded by the Great War. Scarred, burned, and isolated, paladins embody the ultimate expression of devotion and perseverance, ensuring that the faithful's fight against Hell continues with unwavering resolve. In recent years, the Duke has dispatched small forces into no man's land to gather intelligence, look for relics, and to gain strongpoints or hold on to positions of importance. Rumours have spread of rising numbers of observers being deployed to the battlefield, and even word on the increased activity of the Paladins has reached the ears of many. It is now up to you to decide if you will lead these strike forces and act as the sword and shield of God and the faithful against the endless and corrupted forces of the devil. This is the faction of New Antioch. So, that was the faction of New Antioch. Currently, this is my favourite faction because of all the characters, especially the Observers and Paladins. They are by far my favourite units so far that have been announced in the game. However, I have been looking through some information, and it seems possibly the Synod of Strategic Prophecy might become their own faction later on as a playable faction. So that'll be interesting to see. I just want to say, to me, it's a hit. That is the last video I did. The World of Trench Crusade is currently the best video I have ever produced. It is, as I'm recording this, on 9.8k views, and that is the highest my channel has ever had. in its history. So I just want to say thank you guys for watching and subscribing, because now we're on 518 subscribers, which is insane to me. I never thought people would actually want to listen to my waffle about this stuff. And just wanted to thank you guys for watching. And next up, Trench Pilgrims. I have at least one known request for them in the comments of the last video. And if you have any requests for the next faction to be made, leave them in the comments. I will happily do them. I plan on getting through all of them by the end of this series. But the choice of order is up to you guys. So yeah, just let me know, and thanks for watching. That was the faction of New Antioch. See you in the next one.